What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about me and my lack of participation on YouTube. Seriously, I mean, it's been a fucking year, guys, so I guess I probably have some explaining to do, but, yeah, I mean, before we get into all that shit, what's up? I mean, I feel like we should do some cool stuff before we get into the, maybe downerish shit or whatever. It's been too long. I don't want to just be like, hey, what's up, guys? Bad news. Nah, let's kind of work our way into this, huh? And now I'm kind of getting you though, huh? Because now you're like, well, what's the fucking bad news? Ooh. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is going to be what was my highlight of the reading year, and that was without a doubt A War to End All by Michael R. Fletcher and Clayton Snyder. Now, this is book 3 in the Manifest Illusion series, so I know what you're probably thinking. Like, what the fuck, Mark? We haven't seen you in a year. You come back and you want to talk about a book 3 in a series that we maybe haven't even started? Well, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do, because goddamn it, guys, this was it for me. This was the most anticipated read of the year for me, and it was the biggest payoff for me this year. You know, I have to admit, I did not have the most knock it out of the park crazy reading year this year. I read way more rereading of books. I read a handful of newer stuff, and I read a shit ton of manga. And honestly, it was in the manga that I had the most success this year as far as enjoyment. But without a doubt, A War to End All really brought me a level of satisfaction that I was quite frankly scared that I would not get. I mean, let's face it, guys, when we get invested into series or whatever, when we're waiting for that next book to drop, sometimes, we might start to get a little scared that things might not end the way we want them to, or, will this fizzle out? Well, what, this and that. And certainly when it was announced that the book would be split with Michael Fletcher and Clayton Snyder, I had my own concerns. And I know this sounds fucked up because I love both these guys. And I love both their books. And I've read Norielska Groans, which is a book that they've co-written together. And it's seamless and perfect. I mean, maybe it's not perfect, but it's goddamn fucking amazing. So they've given me all these reasons to, just trust them and get on board. But for whatever reason, I do know the reason. I'm just that emotionally invested in the series that I came up with irrational fears that shit, you know what I mean? Like, maybe this isn't going to go in a direction I really want it to go, or maybe this won't shine, or this or that, just whatever, I really had to kind of let go of those expectations and stuff and just kind of go along for the ride and trust that these guys had a plan and that Michael Fletcher wasn't just going to fucking mail it in for the end of this series. I knew that he was working really hard on this thing, that he had tried over and over to kind of get it going, and that he had scrapped it, tried again. So I know that he wasn't just trying to just end it, just put something out there, get it over with. That was not what was going to happen. But yeah, because I was just so invested, I continued to make these fears. So I just wanted to kind of get that out there. I know I'm like, blah, 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 word vomit, but man, guys, I really love this book, and it's been a while since I've been able to talk to you. So, anyway, without further ado, let's talk about the Manifest Illusion series. In Book 1, Beyond Redemption, Michael R. Fletcher brings us into a world that is very dark and desolate. This is a place where belief shapes the landscape, and I know one thing, if you haven't read the series, just like that little nugget can really make your mind run rampant, because you start to think like, oh, these crazy people are, have powers, and if belief shapes the landscape, then anything is fucking possible, and this is just going to be a mess. Well, Michael Fletcher really does his homework, so it's not a huge mess, and things are much more dialed in, even though they are crazy and delusional. It's You know, Michael R. Fletcher is a madman, but he's like a fucking mad scientist. So he's got the fucking, alchemy and all that shit down. He's got the recipe for madness down packed, and it just fits and it works. Now, I know Beyond Redemption is heralded as one of, like, the number one grimdark deal, but I swear when you read Beyond Redemption, you get much more of an epic fantasy, dark fantasy, an epic, dark, heavy metal fantasy vibe. And that is because of this world building that Michael Fletcher has done with the world itself as well as this magic system. Now, in book 2, this is where I would say is much more of a grim, dark tale. Because where Beyond Redemption brings us into this world, book 2 is where we're really picking up we're really going into the depth with the characters that we followed from book 1. So book 1, he really brings us into the world. Book 2, he really brings us into the characters. And that's why I think I say it's much more of a grimdark tale. Not only is it much more like fast-paced and hyper, it's also just way more character-focused. And I know, like, just because a story is character-driven, like, it doesn't mean it's grimdark, but I do think that when you read it, it puts off that fucking vibe, man. And which I think is kind of neat because you will notice that tonal shift between book 1 and 2. And even though it's still very much, in line with one another, they have like their own little flavor each, which is when book 3 comes along and really blew my fucking mind. Because in book 3, what they did was they brought that like epic world building and the magic system like vibe and the character vibe and really meshed them together. So this feels like that dark, heavy metal, grimdark, everything. Like, man, it's so good. They did such a good job of bringing us through the story, like in the headspace of these characters, but also bringing us back to where the world and the magic and everything is also just so goddamn important. Now I want to take a second and just kind of dissect one of those fears I was talking about earlier. And this was the fear that when Michael R. Fletcher decided to split this story with Clayton Snyder, that I felt maybe, it's not a good way to put it, but maybe it would dilute the original path of the story, or, it would not be the manifest, the flavor of manifest that I know and love. It would do something. It would just kind of deviate a little bit from what I had known to come and love and all that, right? So now reading the story, fucking Jesus Christ. These guys, dude, they are the perfect team. As far as I'm concerned, when it comes to writing together, they've got it really figured out. And I was really blown away with how much fun I had trying to figure out who did what. And I still don't know. I mean, I have a pretty good idea on some, and I do have clarification on one chapter for sure. But the thing is I had to do a shit ton of detective work, and it's only because I've read so much of their other stuff that I could pick out small things, you know what I mean? In the way that they structure a sentence, in the way that they like to tip their cap to other authors or other, whatever. There's just little tiny things that are kind of like personal to them that I could kind of see. But at the same time, too, they were doing things that felt like they were almost intentional to hide stuff like that. So to make it a little bit more confusing, maybe to kind of pinpoint who did what. And I might just be making shit up, and I don't know if that's what they did during their process. I just know that these two guys had to have been in sync and worked really damn hard to pull something like this off, because you could have easily have just put, and I mean, it's good that Clayton's getting this fucking shine, but I mean, you could have easily have just put Michael Fletcher's name on that book, handed it to me, and I would have said, yes, he wrote the whole fucking thing. So this addition to, with Clayton, I have to say, was probably a fucking smart-ass move, man. Because it doesn't seem to affect the direction or the story or the flavor, the recipe, anything. In fact, it probably only added to it in a better way. And this is probably why we are getting this conclusion to the story, man. And it's fucking neat. And the other cool part about this is all this shit I'm talking. I know I'm going off the rails again, but everything I'm talking about right now, I was doing while reading the story and enjoying it. I know I'm doing a shit ton of meta detective work while enjoying the story, but it never felt like I was doing both things. It felt like it was all happening at once. Just much like these guys' writing, it was so seamless that I was able to just be massively immersed in the story and then also kind of having this outside perspective at the same time. It was just so fucking enjoyable. I don't know how else to say it. And if you're a fan of these guys' works, like you've read their other stuff and you haven't gotten to this one yet, I do truly believe that you'll have a similar experience. It's just fucking awesome. Now, I'm not trying to spoil anything about these books, right? I'm really trying to tiptoe through the tulips with these ones, but I do also really need to talk about the ending, or at least kind of my feelings on how this story, this series wraps up. And I have to say, boosh. Man, 2 thumbs up, guys. I just swear I was really caught off guard because I have to say, this is like I'm pretty sure statistically across the board with me as a reader do not like book number 3s in trilogies. And it's not, I should kind of word that. It's not so much I don't like these books, is that I continually find them to be the weakest link out of the 3 books. It's just, for whatever reason, I have yet to find a trilogy where the 3rd book knocked it out of the fucking park more so than the previous 2. It's normally the 1st book is always the banger for me, that or possibly the 2nd, you know what I mean? But that's normally almost straight across the board how this goes. So it really blew my mind when I found, myself at the end of this book and was like, shit, this is not the weak link in this fucking trilogy. It's just not. And it floors me to think that fucking The Mirror's Truth, the book 2, is probably the weak link. And that's just not, it doesn't make any fucking sense because book 2 is fucking bananas fucking badass. So how did they do it? How'd they do it? They're madmen. And I'm so satisfied with the ending. I can't speak on it, right? I'm trying not to spoil shit. But I don't think personally they could have ended it any other way. Like, this was the way to wrap this series up. Like, it just, I even mentioned this to one of my buddies in Discord. Shout out to the bastard. I knew it coming. Like, I got to a certain point, I was just like, God, man, from my bones, this is the direction I feel like it's gotta take. It seems like that's the route, and I can't come up with anything else. And I was so fucking happy and applauding when I found myself at the end, and it was like, yeah, that's what they did, because it's just the right choices. They just made all the right choices, in my opinion, to wrap up such a fucked up, delusional fucking tale. It's great. And sometimes it's really fucking heart-wrenching, man. Like, holy shit. And that is impressive because you're talking about scumbags. So these guys have made you feel for pieces of shit. Like, you feel sorry for pieces of shit, which is, that in itself, to me, that's like a skill. You know what I mean? It's a skill if you can write something with a nasty motherfucker, but yet along the lines we empathize, sympathize, relate or whatever with these monsters, so to speak. It's just fucking bravo. I know I'm just being kind of cryptic and all this stuff. Like I said, I just don't want to talk about the fucking ending too much, except for the fact that I was really blown away with the fact that I love this book. Number 3, a 3rd book in a trilogy, is finally not the weakest link. Now, is it better than Beyond Redemption? It's really hard for me to say that, and I think it's mostly because of Beyond Redemption's like out the gate punching power, the first feel of being brought into the dark and dastardly world that Fletcher had designed. It's just tough to beat those feelings. But the one thing that Award to End All has that Beyond Redemption does not is this just satisfying ending to this fucking crazy train wreck of a story. Next up, I want to talk about some manga, because manga is the majority of what I read this year. So hopefully you don't have a fucking problem with manga, because if you do, you're fucked. Anyway, so I did. I read a lot of manga. And, some good, some, meh, and some in between, guys. I think that's really the way. There is so much manga out there. It's like, it can be good and a bad thing, because it can be kind of overwhelming trying to sift through all of it, trying to find those gems that are just right for you. But at the same time, too, it also is something that can appeal to everyone, because literally there is a manga for everyone. I mean, the weirdest fucking shit that you could be into, there's probably a goddamn manga out there just specifically catered and designed for that thing. It's nuts, dude. But for me, I do have kind of distinct tastes when it comes to anime and manga. I'm just picky, I guess. And I don't know if that's because I grew up in the older fucking generation of 80s, 90s kind of anime and stuff, or just the way that we were kind of fed anime. We just didn't have all this shit. And now that there's just this flood, I mean, it's kind of overwhelming for me. And to be honest, there's just a lot I'm just not into. I'm not into a lot of the more like younger stuff. I mean, if it seems too kiddie, I don't really fuck with it. You know what I mean? That's one thing that's kind of deterred me from a lot of things that were probably pretty good. It took me, and one thing that we'll get into later, not probably on this video, but another for sure, it was Attack on Titan. That was a huge thing, not in the manga, but in anime, that I could not get past that first couple episodes, because it just, like, the kid and his whining and his angst and everything was just too goddamn much for me. And when I finally got over that hill, I found myself just through the moon about that fucking anime. But like I said, that's a whole nother video. But what I'm saying is, it's hard for me to find stuff I like. But because of certain things, like finally giving Attack on Titan a chance, it's opened my mind to trying to read different stuff, okay? And so I tried out some stuff, and I think that there's two things that I read that I wasn't necessarily into, but I did see potential in. One of them was called The Wolf That Never Sleeps. Now, The Wolf That Never Sleeps is it's a fantasy manga. And that's why I got into it. I mean, I saw the cover. The cover art looked cool. I'm always in the market for medieval fantasy manga. That's the shit I really am looking for, right? So I picked this up. It's what's known as an isekai. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's kind of like the fish out of water storyline kind of thing, where you take a character from one world, somehow he goes, portals to another, and it's at that point it becomes somewhat like a Superman scenario, where you have someone on an alien planet, and the way that they are, their genetic makeup or whatever, just makes them a very different person on this new world. Whether it's powers, you get it, right? So The Wolf That Never Sleeps is very much one of these. And I got into it because of the medieval fantasy thing. I think that there are some things in there that I really enjoyed. There's some like kind of dungeon crawling stuff happening in the beginning, and then it, once he goes into this other world, it kind of turns more into like trying to adapt to the culture and time of this new place, as well as very much a kind of Monster Hunter kind of tale thing, which I could get behind. I think my main issue with this, and it's one of my issues that's, it's not just this manga, it's my issue with a lot of anime and a lot of manga, and it's just the overuse of exposition. It's just, I can't get into something that continually tells me the obvious. And I understand that a lot of times these things are not written for 42-year-old men. They're written for like 14-year-olds. You know what I mean? So I get it, okay? But I'm searching for the shit that maybe doesn't need to explain every goddamn thing that's happening. Because for me, it feels like after a while, it just feels like you're insulting my intelligence. Like you just don't trust me as a reader to understand the obvious things that you're drawing on the fucking page. Like I could put two and two together. So that was my main issue with that one. It was just, I was like, after I think I got into the second volume, I think I finished it. But it was good. It was just that the overuse of exposition that really took me out of truly enjoying it. But I do think that other people will probably get behind it. I think it's got like, it's kind of promising, and I don't really know many people that are talking about it. And I don't know, maybe in like the actual manga, like fan world, this is a steaming pile of shit. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm just kind of like entering the world of manga. So I'm just kind of learning like about manga fans and everything. But I don't know. Personally, I read it. I saw some potential, but I also saw some things in there that just kept me from wanting to continue. The next manga I want to talk about is one that's definitely a little bit different. It's a bit silly, and it's definitely something I normally wouldn't pick up, but I did. And mostly because of a buddy who had mentioned it. But also, I mean, I have to give credit where credit is due. And it, like, after reading something like Dorohedoro or Dorohedoro, however you pronounce it, that is a manga which we will be talking about next. But that, after reading that really loosened me up. You know, it let me be a little bit more receptive to stuff that maybe I was hesitant before. You know, I was willing to kind of loosen up a little bit in my selection of anime and manga, because Dorohedoro really just, I don't know, man, it brought so much different shit into one that it let me know that maybe I could enjoy these things that I had been just bucking up against this entire time, you know? So I'm like, all right, fuck it, you know, let's just kind of throw caution to the wind and pick up some wacky shit. So I did, and I got Go-Go Loser Ranger. Yes. Now, it is a ridiculous name. And most people because it's not its original name, and I think there's another name, Ranger Reject or something like that. Most people that know about this manga fucking hate the name Go-Go Ranger. Like, they won't even call it that. They'll call it like another name or whatever. You know what I mean? Personally, I think it's fucking hilarious. Especially when you start to kind of unwrap the fact that this story, the manga, is somewhat of a subversion tale of the fucking Power Rangers. So if you got Go-Go Power Ranger, Go-Go Loser Ranger kind of only makes sense. And like I said, it is a subversion, so instead of kind of getting this tale from the Rangers side, it's much more from the monsters' perspective. Though here in this world, the monsters are maybe not as nasty as you think they are, or as they have been portrayed to the public for their entire existence here on the planet. As well as the Rangers have maybe not been portrayed in the correct light as well. Maybe they're not as good as you think they are. Now, a lot of people have tried to say that this is like Power Rangers meets The Boys. And I get what they're going with that, but I also think that it's kind of misleading, because if you're somebody that's really into The Boys, I do not think that you're going to get your fill here in Go-Go Loser Ranger. Now, the Rangers are kind of set up like the Nine, and they certainly maybe not the nicest fucking people, and they're only there to kind of ham it up for PR purposes. So like in those aspects, yes, but you're not getting this massive amounts of fuckery, bloodshed, and just all out debauchery that you get in The Boys. That's just wasn't there. Maybe it's further down the line, but I abandoned ship halfway through volume 2. And, you know, trying to kind of sift through the reasons why, I was like, I'm not sure why. Maybe it is just the fact that, once again, not necessarily my cup of tea, so it was never kind of gonna get the 5-star approval anyway. But if I'm trying to be just objective and put my fucking, you know, detective fucking work on it, I would have to say I think pacing was one of my issues with it, especially where I dropped out. Because it was like this kind of fight happening in the book between our, like, kind of main protagonist character, one of these monsters, and then one of these kind of, like, low-level, like, secondary ranger characters that had, like, sticky, gooey powers. Oh, yeah, that was a fucking, like, innuendo fucking shit at all, but anyway, it just seemed drug out, and it was like, dude, this should have just been over with, and let's get on with the fucking story. But it seemed like it just spun its wheels, and that was where it was really apparently obvious. And then it made me realize, it was like, oh, it kind of spun its wheels here too, and it's doing it again here. And I just was like, yeah, I need it to like kind of pick up and go in a direction and quit being so kind of trying to be ambiguous and drip feeding information. I just don't think that was the right route. I think they should have slammed a little bit more home faster, because then it could have actually grabbed me and made me interested and invested in continuing. Instead, I just got bored and I dropped out. But I do see potential here. Even if this is not my cup of tea, I think that it is fucking silly. And people that are looking for something that are like subversive storytelling and possibly are also like, you know, nostalgic Power Rangers fans, you might get a fucking real kick out of this shit. So this is why I'm bringing it up. All right, so now I want to get into the good stuff. Now, there were plenty of good titles and like good manga and anime that I consumed this year, but there are two that really stick out from the rest. Now, both of these manga also have anime adaptations, so I'm going to kind of touch on all of this for you here, all right? I'll still try to keep it very spoiler-free, not try to get in too far into the weeds and stuff, so that way for you that really want to go in as blind as possible can still very much do so, but I am here to pique your interest on this stuff, all right? These are ones that I just really feel deserve the shine, so I will put the fucking spotlight on them every chance I get. So, as I previously mentioned, Dorohedoro, or Dorohedoro. Now, I'm going to call it Dorohedoro. That's what I first called it. I only try to say Dorohedoro because I'm trying to pronounce it correctly. Let's fucking face it, guys. I'm never going to pronounce shit correctly. I'm a fucking idiot, okay? So let's just let me call it Dorohedoro, even though we know that's the equivalent of, you know, like your dad in a Mexican restaurant saying, I'll have the quesadilla. It's fucking cringe. But just bear with me, okay? It's a really good manga. So, Dorohedoro. It is a dark, urban fantasy, sci-fi, slice of life, mystery, thriller, horror. It's everything. It is an insane genre blending, bending fucking manga. And this is definitely part of its appeal. I think most people that get into this are going to be kind of swept up in this wild imagination of, forgive me, I have to think of the author's name, her name, Q.A. Hayashida, I believe. This gal, don't know much about her. I even tried to figure something about her. The only thing I could come up with was it seems like she enjoyed being a gamer, and she seems to be mysterious. But this isn't too crazy. I feel like there are some of the manga authors or mangaka or whatever they are called. I do think that there are some of them that are very mysterious. So, and honestly, if you get into Dorohedoro, you'll be like, yeah, it makes sense that we don't know anything about this gal. But anyway, her imagination, it's just like it ran rampant in this series. And while it could be easy to like kind of critique and be like, man, you just put too much in the soup, I would kind of argue that it's all the right amounts. It's all the right amounts, which creates this crazy fucking concoction of a soup, but it is delicious, and it is something that I would come back for seconds. You know, it's just surprisingly fucking good, guys. You know what I mean? The things that kind of like pulled me towards this manga, if I'm going to be correct, the first thing that got me was the anime, and this is why I want to talk about these adaptations. The anime is on Netflix, so you can literally go watch this very easy, guys. I had literally passed it up 100,000 times probably because it was just a picture of a guy with like a lizard head, you know, with some red X's or whatever across his eyes. Looked kind of funny, cool, whatever, but at the same time, it was like, yeah, whatever. Like, here, you know? And then one day, I found myself with just nothing to fucking watch. You know those days where you're just scouring the fucking lists of Netflix and Prime and everything, just trying for the life of you to find something interesting and new? Yeah, well, that's where I was. And I just, luckily enough, decided to just press play on Dorohedoro, the anime. That fucking anime took me for a ride. It was wild. It was hyper. It was punk rock. It was a lot of things. It was like in your face. The main characters are like killing somebody in the first like couple minutes. Like, there's magic and sorcerers. There's a whole nother world. And I just got swept up in it immediately. The credits, the artwork, the music. This anime just really caught me off guard. I was so sucked into it that I literally binged it. And I've gone back and I've binged it again. I've literally watched this anime multiple times. But the anime will leave you at a point where the story keeps going, because it's only brings you a little less than halfway through where the manga is a certain length. The anime will get you about halfway through that. Okay? So when it leaves you, you might be like me if you watch that anime, where I was just craving more. I had to know more about the world, more about these characters, more about anything revolving around Dorohedoro. It caught that spark in my fucking dark soul, guys. It was fucking cool. And here's the thing, is it's like, I know you guys know me as like the dark and dastardly guy, you know, the dude likes fucked up, brutal, harsh, gritty shit. And this stuff is in here. But she has also done this thing where she's also weaved so much lighthearted, like humor, nature, and stuff into this series that it's not as fucked up and dark and horrific as it is. It's also very lighthearted, and there's just so many themes of friendship, and those relationships that she displays to you are like so enjoyable and genuine at times, and like literally like they're the kinds of like relationships that you would love to have in your own life. There's just so much shit she's doing right. But it is crazy because she's doing a million things at once, okay? So when I got into this manga, I was really amazed that the manga and the anime are basically the same fucking thing. There is not a whole lot of beats that the anime missed from the manga. I can't say it's beat for beat. There are some things with devil characters and stuff like that are not as prominent, you know, in the anime as they are on the manga, and they will ultimately become much bigger things in the story. So you're not maybe getting all the context of the manga, but you are getting the well beyond the meat and potatoes of the story in the anime. So I was really like pleasantly surprised, and not just that, like how faithful the anime was while I was reading the manga, but also that I didn't mind kind of going through the fucking same steps, because this is something that I've had a problem with Berserk. I've had a problem getting into Berserk because I already know kind of what's going to happen next, and I'm like having a struggle trying to get through those arcs of the stuff I already know from the anime, right? But with Dorohedoro, did not have a problem tromping back through it all. And then when I got to the new stuff, it was just fucking great. It was more characters, more mystery, because there is something that really is kind of the backbone of this manga is a mystery. You know, even though it's like there's all these great characters and all these great ideas and magic and all this stuff, at the bottom line, you know, the bottom of it all, there's this mystery. And one thing I think she does kind of well, but at the same time, it can kind of get annoying, I think, is she's managed to string out this mystery throughout the entire manga. Even when you know you have the answer, there will be sometimes things will happen and you're like, well, fuck, maybe I don't. And then you even get the answer, but then it's still not so straightforward. She does a really good job of kind of keeping you in the dark, or just keeping things weird enough that you're not 100%, even when you are 100%. Now, I don't really want to dive too much into the plot of Dorohedoro because, like I said earlier, there is a big mystery theme to this whole deal. And to me, in all honesty, it's not that the plot is like the weakest thing here in the story, but to be honest, if I'm pitching this whole manga to you, I guess I would say the plot is what I wouldn't be pitching to you. I'd be pitching the relationships between characters and the characters themselves, as well as the world building. The world building, whether it is the world itself or this magic that she's created, so fucking thought-provoking, original, and just really fucking cool, guys. And that is where you will sink your teeth into and just want more. And she'll deliver more. And then sometimes you might get left wanting more, but at the same time, regardless, whatever she gives you, you'll appreciate, because it will just make your fucking imagination just amplified. So I keep talking about the relationships and the characters, so at least let's dive a little bit into that, because I can at least tell you I have some favorite characters out of this manga, and they even kind of come out like as favorites outside of the manga. Like, these are just favorite characters, you know, not just in this story, but out of many other stories as well. The first ones I have to talk about are because I just love these two, is fucking Shin and Noi. Now, when you first meet these guys, they're henchmen of In. And In is kind of portrayed as the bad guy here, though the further we push through the story, the lines between bad guy, good guy are very blurred. And I think that's done for a very obvious reason. You know what I mean? This is a world where it's not really a good guy, bad guy kind of story thing. This is just a shithole, and we're all fucking in it together. But trying not to digress too much, Noi and Shin are just a fabulous duo. Like I said before, they are henchmen. So they're portrayed as these bad guys, but they are fucking barrels of fun. You know, Shin is very much like a kind of edgy guy. You know, he doesn't have the sweetest backstory. So he's definitely got a fucking chip on his shoulder. But what he's got on his, like, at his side, and who's got his back, is Noi. And Noi is just one of my favorite female characters in like within the fantasy like sphere. Okay, I fucking love Noi. I cannot get enough of Noi. I need me some more Noi. She's a big ass motherfucker, dude. She is just built like a gladiator, dude, and it is so hilarious because at the same time she's just kind of got like a fucking heart of gold. Yes, she will straight up kill motherfuckers, but when you see her alongside Shin, you see how much she loves him. Like, she would fucking turn the world inside out for this man. And even though they do a lot of baiting, it's a lot of like, will they, won't they kind of thing between their relationship. You know what I mean? Whether they are romantically or unromantically involved, the feelings just can't be denied that there's this massive amount of love between those two. And it's just put on display and done really well. Like, these fucking murderous motherfuckers are just the two biggest sweethearts at times. And it's great. It's just an amazing juxtaposition that made me instantly love these fucking guys. And on the flip side, you have Nikaido and Kaiman, who are kind of like, in a way, like the antithesis of Noi and Shin, but not really, because like they're not so opposite. They are almost like, they're just, like I said, they're just all kind of on a, they have their own motivations, so to speak, but they're very close, and they're kind of portrayed as the good guys. But trust me, Nikaido and fucking Kaiman slice and dice numerous motherfuckers, so they're not so shiny themselves. But like Noi and Shin, Kaiman and Nikaido have this amazing friendship. It's just one that it gets tested throughout the manga, and it's that stuff that kind of just makes your fucking heart beat a little harder, because it's just got that juice, baby. It's the friendship stories, man. When motherfuckers will put their life on the line and you believe it, like for the other character, it's just so satisfying. And this happens throughout this story with these like friendships. They are just, you know, these guys fucking protect each other throughout this fucking manga, through life, death situations, it's just everything. They go through fucking hell together, and it's just so damn good to just, you know, do it along with them. I literally came out of this manga feeling like these guys were my friends. you know? And like one of the things that's like really like kind of also weaved into this series is food. And one of the big ones being gyoza. Like Kaiman loves to eat fucking gyoza, and Nikaido loves to cook it. But you know what I mean? Like in my real life, like there's a fucking Japanese restaurant here in Fairbanks. I go there and I order gyoza, and I only order it because I've read this manga and it makes me think of fucking Kaiman and Nikaido. Okay, like this story impacted me enough that it impacts my real life and like the way I act. It's fucking awesome. But is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. And I do think that there are pacing issues in this manga. I think about halfway through, there is a part where it switches gears. We pick up with a whole bunch of newer characters, and it could seem to slow things down if you're only interested in one specific storyline. This might not be the case, and you might not have any pacing issues if you're just ready and on board to jump in with the newer cast kind of thing, you know what I mean? But it does feel like it slows things down if you're just trying to kind of hone in on this one kind of narrative. You know, so the pacing could seem like some things are kind of drug out. I do think this is one thing personally, it's kind of a curse with her imagination. She's poured so much imagination into this thing that it is phenomenal. But I think she might, like I said earlier, there's, you know, and I might be contradicting myself about the too many ingredients in the soup, and I said that it was a perfect amount. I do think it is a perfect amount, but I also don't. If I'm really being honest, I think that because she introduces so many wild ideas, so much new shit, you want it to be kind of like, you want to go down that rabbit hole more, but you won't get to. It's just another thing that's really cool and enticing that's kind of been delivered to you, but that's all you're going to get. And it can kind of feel a little less than satisfying because you're like, damn, that was such a cool concept or an idea. Like, why couldn't we have fucking extrapolated on that? Like, and it's like I said, it's a curse because it's not like she hasn't delivered in fucking oodles and caboodles. It's just she's given so much good shit that every fucking thing you want to follow down its own path. And it's just, you can't do that with the length that she's given this story. So it's kind of a victim of its own imagination in a way. But I throw that critique out there with, you know, with as much caution as I can, because still, at the end of the day, this shit is fucking 2 thumbs up. The last manga I want to talk about is one that recently really took me by storm, and it found a way to really infect my brain and my thinking and just my soul and everything. It's just great. I love science fiction that gets cerebral, that kind of is ambiguous style of storytelling that leaves you guessing. It's like the gift that keeps giving. I just love this kind of shit, guys. And of course, the manga I'm talking about is none other than Blom, or Blame, or Blam, or Bliggity Badass. Yeah, dude, this shit is fucking fire. Ugh. First, I guess I'll give you a little context. The reason why I even call it Blom is because the first time I even heard of this shit was a kid came into the tattoo shop and wanted one of the panels tattooed on him. Never heard of this shit, never seen it. It was a crazy-ass panel. It had Killy, our main character, facing an exterminator robot that had guns, just like multiple guns shooting out of its head. It was just so crazy because of the tiny detail. I was just like, fuck no, I can't do this, you know? But I was like, what is that, you know? He's like, oh, it's Blom. So that was like my first like kind of little micro introduction. Then Netflix. I find the anime on Netflix. I watch this thing. At the end, I'm like, I'm not even sure what the fuck I just watched. But what I do know is that I loved it. I fucking loved it. Once again, like I said, man, it's got this weird, ambiguous like nature to it. It's not really filling you in on what's going on, but it is giving you things. Like it's one of those deals like a picture says 1,000 words, and that's what you kind of got to cling to in Blom. Like, you really got to pay attention to the visual storytelling that's going on, because you're not necessarily going to get all that exposition. And this is one of those things that fucking blows my mind, because like I had mentioned earlier, I have a pet peeve of overuse of exposition in anime and manga. Well, in Blom, it's like the complete opposite. There's not any, like, or at least maybe you could say there's just not enough. But for those that really like to kind of dig for answers, this shit is so good. And like I said, the anime left me wanting more. But I didn't really kind of crack back into it until years later. Just recently, I rewatched the anime and it reignited this interest. So I picked up the manga, and when I realized I got the master editions on Kindle, and I didn't realize there was only six of these volumes. It's a very short, when you think about it, manga, like as far as like span, because the most of the manga series I've read run at least 20 something volumes, so this was a fraction of that, and goddamn it was amazing. I will say this, I got into the manga because I wanted more answers after watching the anime, and after I read the manga, I still got all the questions. But what I have is a massive amount of satisfaction, and I also get to sit and, just kind of come up with my own conclusions of maybe where the story went or where it's going, whatever, what have you. It's like I said, it's that gift that keeps on giving, and I'm getting a lot out of this fucking Blom. Oh, man. Essentially, we are in a world that it's post-apocalyptic future kind of stuff. This mega structure that everybody is living inside, it's a self-replicating in a way, because these robots keep building the structure. So it's massive, but it only keeps getting bigger. But also within the walls of this structure are safeguards and other things that are all out to get the humans. At one point, humans used to be able to communicate with the structure. Is basically like they were tapped into the internet via the net terminal gene. But no longer the humans have this gene after a virus supposedly broke out. Now, this is all stuff that you're not really necessarily going to get hit with, and I'm sorry if it feels like I'm spoiling anything for you, but this is not a whole lot of information I'm giving you. And really, if you go and read this, it will probably only kind of help enhance your ride a little bit. Okay? So that's the only bit I'm going to give you. Because when you start this thing, it starts right fucking now, and it feels like you just got dropped into the middle of book 2. It does not feel like a starting point. You're very much just dropped into this thing as shit is going down. Like I said, there is very little exposition, very little dialogue, so you really just gotta focus in and watch, pay attention to what's happening panel to panel. And yes, the way and the nature of this kind of storytelling, it could kind of create where everybody has their own version of the story. But I would say that there is enough concrete stuff going on within the artwork that, it tells a specific linear story within its artwork that you cannot deny. So you can't get too far off the rails of what is being displayed, but certainly you could go off the rails on anything that's going on behind the scenes. One of the things I do want to kind of put out there, because I am just ranting and raving about Blom, and I will probably always, it's just it's become an instant top tier, probably fucking my favorite manga. It might even be beating out Claymore at this point, and that's fucking nuts to me because Claymore's been old faithful. So it's fucking nuts. But I do want to kind of try to be a little objective, and this is not necessarily my gripe. Like I said, I like the ambiguous nature of the story, but I understand it's not going to be for everyone. And the other one, you already heard me say this, but the one thing I haven't really mentioned is just the artwork. This was something that came out in the 90s. And, whether it's a time period thing or a chosen stylized thing, just Blom doesn't look like a lot of manga that you read today. And, to kind of segue off that, neither does Dorohedoro or Dorohedoro. That is one thing that kind of, I was wondering if maybe this had some kind of, influence on QA Hayashida, because certainly in her artwork there is some of this similar sketchiness to it. And I say sketchiness, but don't take that as necessarily a bad thing. It's like I said, it's a stylized look, and sometimes some of the panels are just these crazy architectural shots which could seem very barren, but once again you kind of got to tap into that fucking visual storytelling and understand that like this massive structure, it's so fucking huge. So it's kind of like in a way showing you these barren, big ass fucking architectural landscapes is a way of kind of showing you time. Because think about it as like, it could be easy to read this and think it all happened like that. But if you pay attention to those panels and those barren landscapes, it would easily let you know that it would take fucking years to get through any one of those. So from the beginning of the story to the end probably took place over fucking dozens, if not hundreds of fucking years. And it could easily be kind of lost because you're just thinking, oh, he just didn't put a whole lot of detail in the panels. No, I think everything in Blom is very intentional. And once I said, it's all stylistic choices. So it might not stylistically match up with you. But once again, like my critiques for Blom are more for you than they are for me, because I have really no issues with Blom. I just know that these could be things that are not such easy hurdles for other readers or consumers to get over. So I'm mentioning them, okay? But all in all, I fucking love this manga. I love the anime, though I will say, unlike something like Dorohedoro that is very faithful in its anime adaptation, I would not say that at all with the Blom adaptation, though I would still say go and watch it because it kind of gives you some context that maybe that is kind of nice to have, like, going into the story. I would say either watch it right before or watch it right after. I think either one would probably do well, because it will just kind of give you more Blom, but it's not necessarily the manga Blom, okay? The anime takes kind of like a part of the manga and kind of goes on its own little journey, and it also kind of crisscrosses some timeline shit, so it's pretty far from faithful, as well as also just the anime style of drawing is so far from, like, the Killy in the anime don't look a whole lot like the Killy in the manga, just especially with the eyes being further apart and stuff. Word vomit. I'm going off the rails, boys. Sorry, guys. I love this shit. I want to talk about it, but I also always want to try to, like, make sure that I'm telling you, the good, the bad, and the ugly, But another thing that this thing had just done for me is it just was massively inspirational, and I'll try to see if I can't get these in here, because this is also something that kind of has to do with what I want to do in the future, to kind of bring more artwork into this channel. And one thing that Blom did, it really inspired me just to kind of do some anime artwork. And anime is one thing that is really infecting, like, the tattoo industry, and it's become so ingrained in pop culture now that it's becoming very ingrained in tattoo culture. And so it's kind of like relit a bit of my own passion for anime and as tattooing as well. Like, and I'm starting to see this and feel it, and I really enjoy it. So it's something I would like to start to bring to this channel, and we're going to talk about that next. But still, like I said, I'll try to get these up here because, like I said, Blom inspired me to do these drawings, and I started drawing Killy because I just love this character. And you could say he's bland or just like there's not much to him, but I also feel like that's the beauty of Killy. He is like this fucking just a force of nature. He's a lot like Guts in a way, I feel like. Maybe not as emotional as Guts, but in a way that they're just like these unstoppable forces moving forward with like kind of like this. I hate saying single-minded because that's like not giving the characters their due, but they are kind of like single-minded in their focus and their motivation and stuff. And this guy, I just couldn't stop drawing him. So I drew one, and then I drew another, and then I tried to change the stuff, and hopefully you guys can see this. And the one I've ended up with so far is I'm not 100% done with it, but I mean, I got the cool idea. First I was doing him, and I was doing some smoke and stuff, and then I thought, how cool would it be to be like the perspective of like seeing Killy through a bullet hole, and I just thought that would be so cool, and the image came out really dope, and I would love to turn it into a tattoo one day. The reality being that Blom is such a small fan base, I think that I probably never will do the tattoo, but I will always have it ready. All right, well, enough is enough, and it's time to just kind of get down to the fucking nitty-gritty, ladies and gentlemen, and that is just, kind of an update or maybe like the future projection of this fucking channel. It's, we like I said in the beginning, man, it's been a fucking year, guys. I haven't put out a video in a year. I think that would say something about either my motivation or something else, you know. And I hate that maybe I'm not always 100% transparent. I try to be as much as I feel like is necessary, you know what I mean? Like, with what's going on in my life, I always try to be transparent in my opinions on books. But what's going on in my life, I'm, a private person. So it's just, it is what it is. I got a lot of kids. I got a busy fucking thing going here. And running a YouTube channel is something I did for fun. But it also was something that began to turn into something that felt like a job. And I'm working my fucking ass off just trying to keep my head above water, and it's fucking depressing at times. And I don't want to get into that sad story, but it's tough. It's tough sometimes to just be a family man trying to make ends meet. You know what I mean? So I am working twice as much as I ever have, and I'm probably poorer than I've ever been. And I don't understand how that works out, but it is just the way that the cookie is crumbling for me. And it makes it really tough to find spare time to do shit like fucking, have a YouTube channel. You know what I mean? Like, yes, my YouTube channel is monetized, but it makes about, I don't know, $200 a year. Not going to be eating on that for too long. So it is unfortunate that, like, in some ways, I feel like I just can't keep doing what I've been doing. I feel like I have done enough in that space. I feel like there are a few things I still want to do as far as a reviewer, but not a whole lot, I think I still want to do a channel, but I also have to find a way to integrate kind of what I do for a living into a channel. I mean, and what I mean by that, guys, is like I'm a tattoo artist, for those that don't know. And I've chosen recently to put a lot more time and energy into that, to work on my craft, to become a better artist, to make more money. I mean, a lot of reasons, but it's something I'm very passionate about, but it's also something I realize that takes up a lot of my time. I have stopped playing fucking video games for more reasons than just that, but still, I have taking a lot of distractions out of my life so I could focus more on things that I want to take more serious, like tattooing. Now, there's no reason that I can't still have a fucking channel and do something, and I want to do that. I want to do something that still revolves very heavily within fantasy and sci-fi. I just don't know if I want to review books. I think I just want to talk about this shit. And then I also want to introduce my art and my tattoos to you guys. Now, I understand that this is maybe not the kind of show that you guys signed up for. You know what I mean? You subscribed for a fucking book review channel. And I'm kind of been going back and forth where it's like, well, what do I do? Do I just start a new channel so that way I like have separated these things, and that way, the it's just different, you know what I mean? Those that don't want to fucking do like this kind of thing, they don't, they won't have it in their feed or whatever. But to be honest, guys, if I go start another channel, I am not fucking coming back to this one. It is dead. So it's either just kind of change a bit of the fucking format here and some of the direction, and kind of try to keep it going, because it's probably the only thing that will keep me motivated enough to want to do videos. Or just mothball fucking everything. You know what I mean? I'm not sure. And I know that might not be what you guys want to hear. You know what I mean? Maybe some of it is what some of you maybe want to hear. Maybe you're just like, yes, he's finally going away. I don't fucking know. I don't know if I really fucking care either anymore. Because also with all that, I'm just kind of a bit burnt out, man. I'm a bit burnt out on fucking BookTube. I don't necessarily know if BookTube is the space for me, a guy like me. I mean, I'm not saying that, I'm being, forced out or anything like that. I just, I think I'm still searching for my spot, if that makes sense. You know what I mean, guys? And I've been through a lot this year, and it's put some things in perspective. So I just want to do what I'm passionate about. And I'm sorry if that fucking pisses you guys off, or if it's just not exactly what you want to do, So I guess I always try to listen to you guys. You know what I mean? Ultimately, I make my own decisions. I'm my own fucking person. But I'm only saying this shit because I would like to hear some kind of feedback. I mean, do you guys mind if I just kind of switch some shit up? I mean, you're not going to get these book reviews that you're used to, but you might still get this crazy fucking personality. You know what I mean? And maybe that is something you're interested in. Maybe you're interested in seeing what I do for a living. You know what I mean? I would love to focus more of my tattoos towards the shit that we love in these books. I would love to do more fantasy, science fiction, and anime tattoos. This is like kind of my mission. This is one of the reasons why I'm contemplating doing this stuff on a YouTube channel, because I know it would really help kind of move me in that direction where I could start to do like bigger, better, and cooler things that I fucking love and just makes me want to get out of bed in the morning, you know? That's why I do a lot of things I do, you know, for enjoyment. I want to enjoy my life. I only get one of these fucking things, guys. So I'd like to do what I like with it. What do you think, huh? Who fucking cares? No, I'm just joking. Hey, it's me, man. I always try to be real with you guys. Like I said, what do you guys think? Would you be willing to continue me down the fucking rabbit hole, no matter what size, shape, color, or smell it seems to form? Or are you fucking, are you dead set on me only being the fucking wind-up monkey review boy? You know what I mean? Because if that's the case, that's cool, but I'm not going to do it. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I've said too much. Or maybe I haven't said enough. I don't know. And it is the holidays, so I just want to say, fucking Merry fucking Birthmas. To all ya, I do miss... I miss this and stuff. It's become really fucking hard for me to do. And I'm just trying to find a way to relight that fucking fire, Yeah. Anyway,